Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining. And today what I'm going to be showing you is how to get your elevation views to look up a little bit, you know what I mean? Make them look something will look better than this. So we are going to turn them into this. Yes, so there's a lot to unpack in this video today. That is why it is a little bit longer than the usual stuff, you know what I mean? But I'm sure you're going to learn something. And guess what? If you did, you know what to do. Hit the like button, drop a comment, and guess what? If you didn't subscribe yet, now is the right time to subscribe. And hit the bell, because that is the only way you're going to know that another video comes out when it does. You know what I mean? Well, it might not be the only way, but you don't know it. Just subscribe. Alright, without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so here we are back in AutoCAD architecture, and today we want to enhance and finalize our elevation views. So as you can see here, this is what they currently look like. What we want to do is to get them to look like what we have in this image right here, where we've added some annotations, dimensions, and we have also removed the wall hatch pattern. Also, we've added some trees in the background to give some depth to the elevation views. Now, bear in mind, trees are not necessary in an elevation view for working drawing purposes, but just in case you need to do elevation views for presentation purposes, then I'm going to be showing you how to do that in this video today. So let's go over back to AutoCAD, and this is where we are at. Now, if you don't know how to create these elevation views, I have a video back in episode 12. So we would be able to find these views in our project navigator underneath our section and elevation folder. Of course, we have them right here, and we also have our two sectional views. So that out of the way, let's get right into this. Now, what I want you to understand is that your elevation views are direct reflection of what you draw in your drawing. So for those of you who are new here, this drawing is actually a 3D drawing, right? And so whatever is being done in this 3D drawing is what you're going to see over here. What that means is that the more accurate you do this drawing over here, then the more accurate your elevation views will be. Also, the more details you add to this drawing, such as, let's say, window moldings, roof gutters and stuff like that, the more you add to your drawing, then the more detailed your elevation views and also your section views will be. Of course, this is a very basic video, so we're not going to get into all of that crazy details. Maybe a future video we'll talk about that. All right, so the next thing we want to do here is to remove hatching on these walls. They are very, very annoying. So let's go ahead and click on one of these views, and we're going to go to edit style, and we're going to go over to design properties. Click on that button underneath layers. We're going to go down to hatch, or rather surface hatch line work, and we're going to turn that bad boy off. Okay, and just like that, all surface hatching will be turned off. So if you notice, it applies that to all our elevations, so we have nothing to worry about. Let's move to the next step. All right, what I want to do is to bring in to this drawing our site plan, because if you remembered in past episodes, I'm going to link it below if you missed it, we drew a site plan, as you can see here, and it has a couple of 3D elements to it. We have some trees and we have a car and so on and so forth. So if we bring this into our elevation view, we should be able to see those trees and car reflected in our elevation views. All right, so what I'm going to do here is to just X this back off. I'm not going to save it. What I will do is go back to my project navigator, go to construct, and on your site plan, we're going to right click and we're going to say XREF overlay. And just like that, we have the site drawing included in this drawing. And what that allows us to do is to reflect those onto these drawings now. So we're going to highlight them all and we're going to hit refresh. And just like that, as you can see now, trees are in the elevation views. Cars, one car is in the view as well, and it would be seen in all the other views. All right, now if you notice, the trees are being cut off, and that's because the view is not wide enough to capture everything. So if we go back over to this 3D drawing, you will notice that we have these lines here representing the views. Whatever is within this box is what will show up here. So what that means now, if we want to see everything, what we have to do is to widen the box. That's all. All right. But before we widen the box, I actually want to move these over, because I don't know if you noticed, but my side plan is coming over into the drawing, and this. All right. Move. Author mode. All right. So those are moved over, looking good. So now we can widen this box out some more. So let's go ahead and start with the left elevation. Let's capture everything down to this point here. And if you notice, guys, this line represents the left elevation, and everything within this box will show up on our left elevation. So if I go back to my left elevation here and I refresh, now I'm seeing everything that was within that box. All right, so that's what we want to do with all of these lines. So I'm going to move this. This would represent the back elevation. I'll move that up, and I'm going to widen this out. By the way, when you're widening these out, please make sure that your ortho mode is turned on, because what you don't want to do is to widen it and it looks something like that. All right, so undo. Turn on my ortho mode is turned on. All right, pull this out, and I'm going to pull this down. All right, so everything within this box will be seen, and then I'm going to move this one out like that. You know what? It's not necessary to connect them. And I'm going to also move this one here back to about here, and I'm going to widen them out a little bit, pull it back a little bit. All right, so now it's not all very neat, but it doesn't matter once it captures everything. We're going to refresh them all, and now you can see that all our elevations are pulling those information. One thing you definitely don't want is any object to block the building, especially if these are working drawings that your carpenter and your mason and the contractor is going to use. You definitely don't want these to be blocking. But if you're doing a presentation drawing, then of course you can have it like that. In this scenario, we don't want it. So what I'm going to do is to move these back in front of those objects. So I kind of put it in front of the car so I don't see the car. For this one, I want to put it in front of those trees, like that tree right there. I don't want to see it. Likewise, for the back elevation, I don't want to see those trees. And for this side, I guess this side is good. Nothing is really blocking the building. So that would be good. Then I would go ahead and refresh. So now you can see that those trees are gone. For this view, now we can see the door clearly, which is important. And for the front view, there's no tree in front of the house. But then we also have those in the back, which we are going to be using to add depth to this drawing. All right, so what I'm going to do from this point is to drop the ground 6 inches down. All right, now if you notice, currently it is in the same line as our finished floor level, and that's not good. What I mean is, if I should go to 3D view, as a matter of fact, let's go to conceptual, where it's a little bit easier to see. So the ground level is on the same level as the finished floor level, which is in the house, which simply means if rain fall, water going to go in your house, so you need to drop this. So what we're going to do is to click on it, go over to where you see insertion point Z, and we're going to take away 6 inches from this. 3 feet 6 inches. And we're going to hit enter. And so that is being dropped 6 inches below. So now if we rotate, we can actually see that the ground level is now below, the finished floor level. And so let's go back to 2D wireframe. Let's also go back to our top view, and then we're going to refresh. And if you look at it now, we can see that the ground has now been depressed 6 inches, which is exactly what we want. What we're left to do is to just modify our elevation views. Now I'm going to modify one, and then of course you would apply those principles to your other elevation views. I don't think I would have enough time to go through all of them, but let's see what we can do. So I'm going to do this one in particular. This is the right elevation, mainly because it has the door. None of my other views actually have a door on it, so I want to do this because, I want to give an example of a door. So what we're going to do is we actually can click on the elevation view. Let's widen this out some more, all right, to capture everything. And then what we can actually do from here is we can explode it. All right, that's one way to do it. So if we do explode it and then we have to explode it another time, we would be able to select the line and delete what we don't want, and add stuff that we want. And this would be like the more traditional way of doing it, like we used to do it, right? And sometimes this is necessary, but for this video I want to show you another method. So I'm going to undo back to this position, and then we're going to go ahead and edit this elevation view by clicking on the edit button up here. And now, as you can see, we can actually click on lines and delete lines. One thing you cannot do here is to, like, say, move a line. You can't move the line, or you cannot lengthen a line. All right, but don't worry, that's no problem. So we're going to delete the foundation, of course. We're going to also delete this line because I want to make it a little bit more customizable. And then we're going to go ahead and hit finish. And so this is what we're left with. Now what we want to do is to go ahead and use lines and draw the areas that we want to draw. So the first thing I'm going to draw is this line right here, which would represent our finished floor level. And then we're going to just connect these walls back into the ground with another line, just like that. All right, so once we have those 3 lines in place, what we're going to do is to merge it with the current elevation. So we're going to hit merge, and we're going to select the elevation along with those lines that we drew, and we're going to hit enter, and we're going to basically match those lines to look like the wall. So we click on the wall and it changes to the wall component. We hit OK, and so now those lines basically take on the same component as the walls. All right, the next thing I want to do, I'm going to actually draw 2 other lines, one here going across and another one here going across, and that would represent my finished floor level going through the building. So we're going to add those again, merge. I'm going to select those 2 lines as well as the elevation, and we're going to hit enter. This time we're going to change the component to what is called a hidden vector, because those lines I want to be in a hidden line. All right, and as you notice, we have quite a number of options here to choose from. We have section hatch, that is if you were going to use hatching. We have subdivisions, which we can assign different things to, and later on you'll see that I'll actually be using one of these. All right, so let's stick with hidden vectors here, hit OK. And now those lines have actually become a part of the elevation and have also taken on a hidden line pattern. All right, so looking good so far. Another thing I want to do is to go again and edit, and I actually want to delete this line because this should actually be a flat wall going all the way across, and these door swing lines should actually look like this. I want them to look like this, so I'm going to edit these lines, go to model component, and I'm going to change them over to swing lines. All right, and I'm going to hit OK. So just like that, I have my swing lines looking like this one over here. All right, guys, so if you're enjoying the video so far, then definitely remember to hit the like button. And guess what? If you learned something new today and it's your first time on the channel, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button and remember to hit the bell, because that is how you're going to know when I drop another video. All right, thanks. Big up yourself. Let's get back to it. Now, I also want to make the ground, all these lines down here. You know what, let's do this. We're going to go modify component, and we're going to switch these over to medium weight objects, all right, because this is a much thicker line than the current subdivision 1 line. So we're going to switch them over to medium weight, and we're going to hit OK. And if you notice, it changes color. So if I should turn on line weight here, you can see that those lines are actually a little bit thicker. Now I want to put the trees on a separate component as well. So I'm going to select all of the trees. All right. I'm going to go ahead and click on model component, or modify rather, and I'm going to place these on subdivision 2. The more elements you have in your elevation, you can actually assign to different subdivisions, but I'm going to stick with subdivision 2 for this one. And I'm going to say OK. And if you notice, the trees change color as well, but this is not the color I actually want. I want these to be a gray color. So I'm going to hit finish here, and then I'm going to click on the elevation, and we're going to edit style. So let's go to edit style, and we're going to go back to the same place we were before. And of course, in here you can see that we have all of our subdivisions, all of our components, and we can actually modify them. The colors are here. We can change them. We can change the line weight. We can change the transparency, whatever we want. So I'm actually going to change subdivision 2. I want the color of this to be gray, maybe this gray or a darker gray. Let's use this gray, but I don't want it to be indexed. I want to move it over to true color. So once you click on true color, it's going to automatically register that color here. Now the reason for that is because if I had used index color, it's going to print out as black. All right, because I want it to take on the gray color, I use true color. All right, hit OK, and then I hit OK. And just like that, you can see that the trees are now gray. All right, and that's all we have to do with our elevation view. We could do a lot more, but I'm going to stop right there and leave you to explore and mess around, but don't spoil the drawing. All right, so from this point, what we're going to do is to add some annotations to this drawing. Now, as you know the golden rule already, before you add any form of annotation, make sure that your scale is at the right scale. All right, so of course we're going to be using 1/4 inch for this drawing. All right, so let's go ahead, and the first thing we're going to do is to add some dimensions. So I'm going to just use the AEC dimensions here. Of course you can use the linear for this one, but I'm going to use AEC, and I'm going to just use pick points. And the first thing I'm going to dimension to is the window. All right, so from there to there to there, and I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to pull this dimension out and click right there. All right, so that would be my first string of dimension there, giving us the height of the window and how far it is from the ground. Also bear in mind that in an elevation view, we only need to see vertical dimensions. There's no need to put horizontal dimensions because those are already in your floor plan drawing. So these are the dimensions that you want to add to your elevation view. So we're going to go again and add another one to the door. Now the door and the opening is on the same height, so you know, it's just one dimension to show both. Of course, if the opening was a little bit higher, we could add one for the door and then another one for the opening. But that's where that is going to end. Let me add one more, maybe from the ground or the finished floor level to the eave of the roof. Pull that out and add it about there. There's not much on this to be dimensioned, so those are the only 3 dimensions I'm going to be adding. Let's move over to some leader annotations. So first thing I'm going to annotate is the fascia board. All right, I'm going to also put one maybe here just to say eave. That's the eave right there. I think that's how eave is spelled, right? Could also put one more on the top here that says whatever the roof covering material would be. You could add that as a note here, but for this I'm going to just say roof covering to owner's choice. All right, so that's that. And then the last thing I'm going to do actually is to add the slope. Yeah, we could type it in, or we could go back to our roof plan, which is what I'm actually going to do. And I'm going to just copy this thing right here. Copy, X that off. And I'm going to paste it in here. I'm also going to rotate this just to make it look something like that. And I'm going to put it right here. One more thing I want to add is a text down here to say FFL, which stands for finish floor level. So this level right here is the finish floor level, and I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it maybe like here, and I'm going to change this to GL, which stands for ground level, which would be the outside here. And so this is what the basics of a elevation view would look like. So now we can go ahead and repeat this process for all of our elevation views. At this point, I'm going to fast forward the video so that we can get through this quickly. All right, so this is where we're going to stop with the elevation views. I think we have enough information on here. One thing that you do not want to do, guys, is to refresh your elevation views at this point, because once you refresh, it's going to bring back old things that you don't want to see. All right, so if you notice, it brings back that line there. Luckily, it didn't bring back your foundation, but it usually does. So don't refresh. If you need another back elevation, what we could do is actually click on the elevation line itself and say generate. So what we're going to do is to generate a new elevation, and you could just place it wherever you want it, and it would, you know, bring back another elevation for you. But we don't need another elevation view. Now, one last trick that I wanted to show you, and this was something that was brought up in the past, where somebody asked, is it possible to see through the building, meaning is it possible to see the hidden lines within the building? And the answer is yes. Now this is something I discovered recently. All you got to do is click on the elevation itself and go to edit style, and underneath design rules we're going to click on this little checkbox here that says keep all hidden line work. Once we hit OK, you're going to have to refresh the view in order to see it. So let's refresh, and now as you can see, all the hidden lines are now showing up. But of course we don't want to see them in this, so I'm going to undo and I'm going to leave it at that. All right, gentle folks, so that's the end of the video for today. And of course there's much more that we could do to our elevation views, but I'm sure you learn enough to go and explore on your own, to just mess around, and I'm sure you'll come up with some great ideas. So definitely remember to hit the like button and subscribe and share, comment, likes, follow me on Instagram and Twitter, all of that. But also check out my Patreon page, and I just want to shout out all of my Patreon. Big up on yourself. Thank you all for the support, and guess what, I'll see you in the next video. Promise?
What am I saying?